Good evening and welcome to the National Press Club and this Leaders' Debate. Will you please put your hands together for the Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull and the Opposition Leader Bill Shorten. My name's Chris Yorman. I'm President of the Club and the ABC's political editor. I'm joined this evening by some distinguished colleagues from the press gallery. That's Laura Tingle from the Australian Financial Review, Andrew Probyn from the West Australian and Ellen Winnett from the Herald Sun. Our timekeeper is Hannah Porter. Gentlemen, the only thing you need to remember is when you hear a bell, you have 15 seconds to conclude whatever it is that you are saying. Time is short. We will not waste it. Bill Shorten has won the toss and elected that the Prime Minister should open the batting.
Thank you. We live in remarkable times, an era unprecedented in human history where the pace and scale of economic change is preeminent and unprecedented. China, 40 years ago, barely part of the global economy, now the world's largest single economy and our largest trading partner. Within a few years, half of the world's middle class will be living to our North and East Asia. We have seen the pace of change in technology as great businesses and great industries are overtaken by newcomers. These are times of enormous opportunity and uncertainty. These are times of great challenge. These are times when we need a clear economic plan to secure our future, to ensure that Australians remain a high-wage, generous social welfare net, first world economy. And I have that plan. My government has set out a national economic plan, every single element of which will create stronger economic growth and more and better jobs for Australians in the future. And that is not just a list of statistics. We measure the economy in numbers and percentages and growth figures, but where it counts is with every single Australian's life and their opportunities. The young person leaving school who wants to get a job. A strong economy means there'll be more opportunities. When he or she is a little older, wanting to start their own business, they will be better able to do that if there is a stronger economy, greater confidence, the ability to invest, the ability to borrow and grow that business. And then larger businesses, where will they invest their money? Where will they decide to build up their operations? They'll do it in an economy that is strong. And that is what we are creating with our national economic plan, based on innovation. We know that if we are to be competitive in the years to come, we must be more innovative. We must be at the cutting edge of technology. So every element of our plan points to that. Supporting start-up businesses, ensuring that our defence spending is spent in Australia on advanced manufacturing, on technology, ensuring that we give small and medium businesses a tax cut so that they have more to invest in their business. 5 million Australians work for businesses that generate $10 million a year or less in revenue. They will get a tax cut on the 1st of July if we are elected. Right across the board, every element points to more growth and more jobs. And here in Reconciliation Week, on the land of the Ngunnawal people, which we acknowledge here in Canberra, we note that our policies supporting Indigenous entrepreneurship have had the result of creating 39,000 more jobs among Indigenous Australians and increasing by tenfold the amount of government contracts going to Indigenous businesses. Right across the board, our future is underpinned by an economic plan for growth and jobs. Bill Shorten.
Tonight I would like to talk directly to the Australian people, and I thank you for taking the time to listen. This election is not just about the next 3 years. It's about the next 10 and 15 and 20 years. It is about your future for your children and your grandchildren. This election is about a strong economy and a fair society. It is about Labor's positive plans for a strong economy and a fair society. Labor's plans which will, 1, ensure we have rigid budget measures. 2, that we make sure that we have nation-building infrastructure, Aussie jobs, Aussie apprentices, local content. And 3, education, from childcare right through to schools to TAFE and to universities, ensuring that Australians are equipped to compete for the jobs of the future in our region. Labor has positive plans. Labor will ensure that we make sure that Australians get high-quality education. We will make sure that Australian children get the best quality schools. We will do this by making sure that we have well-funded, positive plans. The real challenge for Australia, of course, is to ensure that we have fairness in our society. The only way we can have a strong and sustainable economy, maintain a decent standard of living, make sure that there is equality for all Australians, is to ensure that we have fairness. You can trust Labor to protect Medicare. Trust Labor to stand up for education and training. Trust Labor to ensure fair taxation and housing affordability. Trust Labor to take action on renewable energy and climate change. Trust Labor to ensure the equal treatment of women in our society. This is Labor's plans. They are plans which will ensure jobs, education and Medicare. By contrast, our opponents have got a plan which puts big business at the centre of their economic strategy. Our opponents have had 3 economic plans in the last 3 months. First of all, it was a 15% GST. Then it was to propose that state governments be allowed to levy additional income taxes. And now it's a $50 billion tax giveaway for large businesses in Australia. This is a very expensive risk. $50 billion for large companies, $7 billion of that will go to large Australian banks, NAB, Westpac, Commonwealth Bank and ANZ. These are matters which are a very expensive gamble. Much of this money will go to overseas shareholders. It'll derive little economic benefit. Now, of course, these economic theories have been tested before by Thatcher and by Reagan, but it's a very risky, expensive gamble to take with Australian taxpayer money for little economic benefit. Labor has the best plans to ensure real jobs, genuine growth and fairness in our society, and I would ask you to vote Labor at the next election.
Laura Tingle.
Mr Turnbull, last September, voters were expecting a leader who was going to move politics more to the centre and a leader who would get the country going again. Many feel that you have subsequently abandoned what you believe in and that nothing much has happened since you became Prime Minister. What do you say to those voters? And most importantly, will they see a different Malcolm Turnbull if you win your own mandate to the one that they see now?
Well, thank you, Laura. I come to this role as Prime Minister and as a Member of Parliament not from a career in politics, working as a staffer or working for a trade union. I came here to Parliament at the age of 50 after a career that had many roles, including many in business, often in partnership with my wife Lucy, my wife of more than 36 years. And together what we have done is built businesses, made investments, created jobs. We understand what makes the economy hum. We understand the importance of confidence. We understand why people hire, why people invest, how the economy grows. Our future, and that of every Australian, depends on this strong economy. Now, every element of our plan supports that. Our opponents have nothing to say about the economy other than increasing taxes and denying tax cuts to business. Just heard Bill talk about the Thatcher and Reagan. What about Paul Keating, who cut company tax? Why did he do that? What about more recently Chris Bowen, who wrote a book saying that clearly company tax reductions, business tax reductions will result in more investment and more employment. For every dollar cut from company tax, you get $3 going to Labor, that's to the employees, and $4 additional value in GDP. So we understand that, and I understand that this is a story about ensuring our future. All of the promises, whether it is for schools or hospitals, will be of no value unless we have a strong economy, A strong economy generates the jobs and the taxes that will pay for all of those promises.
Did that answer your question, Laura?
I don't think it actually answered the question, Prime Minister, which is about your own position on a range of other issues other than the economy, about things like climate change, which people...
I'm very happy to talk. You asked me about climate change. I'm delighted to answer that.
And, well, it's more about the disappointment voters feel about you not being what they think you were, and they're very confused now about exactly what you stand for.
Well, can I say to you, if you want to talk about climate change, I'm very happy to talk about climate change. Would you like me to do that, Chris?
I think the question's about yourself, Prime Minister.
Very good. Well, the question is where I stand. And where I stand on climate change is where I have always stood. We need effective global action to reduce the world's greenhouse gas emissions, to ward off the impact of global warming. And we need effective global action. And remarkably, we are seeing that. The agreement in Paris, to which Australia is a party, my government became a party to that, sees all of the leading countries in the world agreeing to reduce their emissions, Australia by 26 to 28% by 2030, 52% on a per capita basis. We're playing our part. President Obama thanked me personally only a week or so ago for the commitment we have made. So we are playing our part. The world is finally moving together to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. And I stand where I've always stood, recognising that we must take action as a global community to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, to protect our environment for our children, our grandchildren and the generations that come thereafter.
Bill Shorten, this question was to the Prime Minister, but you get an opportunity to respond to it. You might like to tell us who you are.
Well, I'm happy to do that, but I also want the opportunity to address what Mr Turnbull said. When Mr Turnbull got elected 8 or 10 months ago, I thought my job would be harder, but I thought that politics would go to a better place in this country. I thought we would dispense with Tony Abbott's three-word slogans, and I thought we would see a more elevated debate about ideas. But on each issue, I see this government shrinking into an Abbott-style government of three-word slogans and scare campaigns, and I do not expect the next 5 weeks of this election to be any different from the government. On the two specific policy issues which Mr Turnbull addressed, one, he says, company tax. By spending $50 billion over the next 10 years, he's saying that this is the economic story which will make Australia a better place. But 3 months ago, he said that 15% GST was an idea worth considering. 2 months ago, he said that state income taxes, giving them the power to levy taxes, that was an idea worth considering. And now he says giving $50 billion worth of company payments from the taxpayer by reducing their tax, that's the idea to go forwards with. We know that that'll generate 0.1% growth in the economy. And that is not going for $50 billion justify giving $50 billion from our budget.
But Laura Tingle has offered you the opportunity, both of you, to talk about yourselves. Who are you, Bill Shorten?
I'm a person who's stood up for the fair go my whole working life. I'm a person who has been in the workplaces of Australia, standing up for people, ensuring there are cooperative enterprises, making sure that people are well paid and that companies are successful in their business. This is the way I look at Australia. I understand the pressures people have when they go to work. If they're on a fortnightly pay packet, by the time they get to day 12, they're really watching their budget carefully. I understand the importance of having a good job to everything else that Australians get to do in life. I also understand, thanks to my mother in particular, the importance of education, giving people opportunities. What I've discovered in my working life, it isn't a person's background or the school that they went to, or how much money their parents had, which defines an individual. It's the opportunities they have inherent in every person. Now, Mr Turnbull did talk about climate change as well.
Yeah, no, we'll be going back there soon.
Okay.
Ellen Winnett from the Herald Sun.
Gentlemen, when this election was called 3 weeks ago, you both said it would be about trust. And Mr Turnbull, you particularly urged us to trust you on the economy, while Mr Shorten, and you said again tonight, you urged us to trust you on health and Medicare. But how can the people of Australia trust either of you when you, Mr Turnbull, deposed a sitting Prime Minister and you, Mr Shorten, deposed not one but two?
Mr Shorten?
Well, Labor's learned its lesson about that difficult period, and I'm fortunate to lead a very united team. But we do talk about trust tonight and in this election. And Labor can be trusted on Medicare. We will make sure that bulk billing is preserved. We will make sure that GPs get regular modest increases in payments from Medicare so they don't have to introduce upfront fees for patients. Labor can be trusted on education. We want to make sure that every child in every school gets every opportunity, because we would properly fund schools, government schools and non-government schools, according to the needs. Labor can be trusted on climate change. I never thought when Malcolm Turnbull became Prime Minister that I'd be debating Tony Abbott light on climate change. And all of the climate change policies of the government are essentially Mr Abbott's policies. You can trust Labor on fair taxation and to provide more action on home affordability, and you can certainly trust Labor to ensure that women in our society get an equal go.
Prime Minister.
Well, I thank Bill for the name calling, but let me deal with the big issue that you've raised. We know that our future depends on strong economic leadership. I'm as committed to every Australian having a good education, having the chance of a good education, as everyone else here, including Bill. I had a great education. I was brought up by a single dad who didn't have much money, and he struggled to send me to school, and I had some really charismatic teachers that transformed my life. I would not be where I am today without them. I understand, as does Lucy, the transformative nature of good education. And of course we agree that government money should be allocated on the basis of needs. The difference between what we will spend, federal money, over the next 4 years, and what Labor is proposing is the difference between $74 and $78 billion. It is $4 billion is a lot of money. But we are spending more than ever before. Our government is, my government is. And what we are seeking is great outcomes. So we are going to ensure that every child at the age of 5, when they go to school, is assessed so that we find out